Now, I want to get into the sales aspect of things now, Sway. If you can kind of explain a little bit about what you do there at your current position and how you came about to going from salesperson all the way to executive. Because I remember meeting you and I was I learned a lot from you when we were working at Enterprise Rent a Car. And I
Mhm.
always noticed and recognized you out of most salespeople that I meet on a daily basis. So if you can kind of just talk about that a little bit and how you went from salesperson to high level.
Yeah, so my sales career started at Enterprise, and I always tell people I think everybody should do 2 years at Enterprise just so they could appreciate what they have.
Right.
For those that don't know, you just get your teeth kicked in for a few
Yep.
years. You're working 60-hour weeks. Like you learn a lot. And then when you go on to your next job, when you're working 40 hours or less, everything's completely different. It's heaven.
Mm,
Um,
Mhm.
so I'm always thankful and grateful for my time that I spent at Enterprise because I learned a lot, made great friends when I didn't know anybody here in SoCal. Um, yeah, and it kind of like set you up for success. If you're successful at Enterprise, you'll be fine everywhere you go. So that's kind of how it started. Started at Enterprise, did really well, moved up really quick. But what set me apart is one, obviously the numbers were there, but on top of that, like I went out of my way to help everybody. And it was always proactive. I was never asked to do that stuff. If I saw somebody struggling, I went up there, talked to them, gave advice. But at that same time, coming in with like that open mind, like, hey, even though this person probably isn't great at this job, I could learn from that person. And you never know what you're going to get out of that. So that's always
humble.
been my approach.
Hmm.
Um, like be a good individual contributor and then be that great politician. Because
Mhm.
people promote people that they like,
Wow.
as opposed to somebody that's just results oriented. So if you
Right.
can master both, you're going to go far in life.
Right.
Um, so I took that. I went to After that went to waste management was an individual contributor. I liked the job, great company. There was just no room for growth. So that's
Mhm.
how I kind of landed this job. Is
Hmm.
I was approached by my first manager saying like, "Hey, a lot of stuff's going to happen with this company. I don't know what it's going to be. We might be bought out by a company. We might go public, but something's going to open up a lot of management opportunities." So I was
Right.
like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I can jump on that." So I took that same philosophy, went in, hit the ground running, made sure everybody knew who I was, helped everybody. I got a few presidents clubs and all that kind of stuff, but could have promoted a little earlier than that. But I didn't want to move to Fresno. Didn't want to move to like some other place. I loved LA. I wanted to hang tights in this nice weather. So when
Mhm.
that position did open up, it was a district sales manager. So you're just overseeing like 6, 7 people. Maybe I think I oversaw like 9 at one time. So when that position opened up, I was naturally the person that slid right in there. Um, but from there, it was tough. You had to manage your peers, people that you knew didn't really work or worked. I know there was guys that we would joke around. Like I set myself up for success because I set the example. But I would talk to guys. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's 11 o'clock. He calls me. He's playing Call of Duty, playing basketball, kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
um, it's a little weird dynamic when you go and you start managing your friends, start managing your peers. So
Yep.
what I did is I burned it down and built it up.
What do you mean by
Got rid
that?
of all the people I didn't want to work and brought on people that I knew were going to be A players. I always bring on candidates or bring on people that have kind of like similar backgrounds, enterprise rent-a-car people and college athletes, or,
Hmm.
or,
Mhm.
or both. So I took that profile, implemented that, built a team. Within a year, we were that number one team. And then this position opened up as a regional sales director. So now I oversee 6 sales teams. So like 6 sales
Dang.
managers and like 42, 43, something like that.
So you
Individual.
manage about 50 people currently?
I think it's like 42, 43,
40.
something.
So it
It
sounds
sounds
like
right.
you went the Deion Sanders route. Like it sounds like that's your strategy. Go there, replace the team with people that you think will actually that want to do it, that want to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And my philosophy is no C players. You have to
Mhm.
have that mentality and be realistic. Is not everyone's going to be an A player.
Hmm.
Some people just don't
Mhm.
have it in them. But if you have A's and B's and no C's, things are going to be great for you.
Did you say you have to have A's and B's or no B's and C's?
No C's? So you're going to have A's and B's.
Okay.
But if there's no C players, if there's people that are engaged, people on board, people that want to promote, and if they don't want to promote, just do your job. Do the minimum stuff.
Can you automatically tell right away who's an A player and who's a B player, or does it take a while to figure that out?
I think it takes a while because you got to get to know them. You got to look into their numbers. You got to look into what they do every day. Like, are they a good performer because they're kind of lucky, or are they disciplined? And so, hey, they put themselves in a position to produce week after week, month over month, year over year.
Okay.
So it takes a little bit to get to know them.
Well, I was going to ask, so is commission alone not enough to motivate or weed out people? Like, if people are not making money, they're going to leave. They're going to make more money. Some people will be incentivized. I know I would by selling more. Is that not the kind of structure you're working with over there?
So the corporate world in California is a little different. Some people are fine with just getting their base salary, just getting by like at the edge of their teeth.
Yep.
So those I would consider the C players.
So just to pause there, C players are the ones that just want to get by. They don't really care if they make more. They just want to get that paycheck consistently and not really work more than they have to. Right? Am I right? Or
I would consider a C player somebody that doesn't want to be better and someone that's not performing to the minimum standards, but doing nothing to get to that next level.
Okay.
So a B player could be someone that comes in and hits numbers just barely every week, but they're a good culture fit. They're on board with every initiative that you have. They're good people, good team members. If they're hitting numbers, even if it's not by a lot, they're still valuable.
Well, so likability, that's where the likability comes in, where the work politics probably matters for the B player to stick around long enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So what is like the biggest mistake you see salespeople make? Is that, I don't know if that's too vague of a question.
No, I think that's a great question. So the common denominator that I've seen in my sales career of like whether you're successful or not is, do you prospect every day? If you don't prospect, if you're not filling that funnel, if you're not turning cold calls into warm leads, you're going to fail. But if, say, for example, I have our guys, if you spend an hour a day just prospecting and researching companies before you call them, and then we do like a phone block or a phone blitz every Monday and Wednesday or a few other times a week, you're calling only warm people. So you know what they're doing, you know who to talk to, you know who to ask for, you know what I always say is like, have bullets in your chamber that you can fire at them when they're about to give you an objection. So you address that objection before they can state it, and you show like, hey, I've done the research before even calling you. This is why you should meet with me. And then if you meet with me, I just want to show you why and how I can make your life easier with this product, the service, whatever we're doing.
Now, that to me sounds like something that can be taught, right? In terms of like, oh, hey, contribute an hour or 2 hours of your time researching before you contact these cold leads, where it can become warm leads. But so that's good. But there's also an element, I think, that comes naturally, whether you have it or you don't. And do you think that's my opinion. Do you think that's true? And then the second question to that is there a way to break through that? Like, if you're not the best at just talking to people, can you be taught to be really good at talking to people?
I always told people in sales, like even from enterprise, like not everybody can physically lift, 200 pounds over their head, but everyone can learn to listen, and everyone can learn to respond accordingly. So it's all mental. You might have those mental barriers every now and then. I could think of a few in my career, but for the most part, sales is a mental game. It's not physical. You choose to learn it or you don't.
What I always tell people is you're going to be good at anything you like doing. You're just not going to be good at anything you don't like doing. And if you're not a good speaker, it's because you don't like speaking.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, though, I feel like in life, there's a lot of things we don't like to do that you have to do to get far. And I think that's where ambition comes to play. So I see your point there, but at the same time, I think that's why I wanted to have you on today, because I feel like sales matters in everything, dude. Like
Yeah.
any job you have, you got to sell yourself to the boss, to your customers, or acquiring new customers. So I guess my next point is like, do you think as a salesperson, are there natural salespeople in general? I know you said about the 200-pound analogy, but can you, like, if you were going to start a new team today, right? And they're automatically C people, do you think you can switch them over to A? Kind of like in Wolf
Yeah,
of
I
Wall
think it's
Street,
possible,
you
but
know?
there's so many barriers, and that one barrier is it will or skill? Like you have to want things in life, and things that aren't just going to be given to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's a big distinguishing factor. What does whether you're successful in life or not, did you have the will to do the stuff that people didn't do? Were you willing to give that extra 20% or not? And kind
So
of
then
think
I
I
like the
about
think,
like
term
caveman
will or
days.
skill. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
cut
the
you off, but
caveman days,
I
like
really,
back in that.
I really like will or skill. I think that that says so much. I know people who have the
will or
skill,
skill.
the potential to do something, but just zero will. You know, they're not going to
Yeah.
want to put the extra work in.
I feel that a lot of these young people too. I mean, we're pretty young. We're not super young, but like people in a generation younger than us don't have that will. So I feel that there's going to be a burden or some type of headwind for the future when you're trying to build a sales team. And I think that's like for me, I want to start scaling soon and building on, team members onto my team. But if they're young people, I feel that they're going to want to have things kind of handed to them in a way rather than having that will and ambition to go out there and look for it. So is there any suggestions you would give to someone like myself that wants to essentially build a team, but they're surrounded by people that tend to not have that, natural ability of wanting and growing ambition? How would
Yeah,
you?
I think that goes back to like how you were raised. Did you have good parents? Did they push you? And I feel like this generation has these soft parents, right? These I can go on a tangent here, but I think the male figure is being feminized recently,
Yep.
and they're not like hard at home. They're not pushing their kids. They're not making them do stuff. They're not giving them responsibilities. And 10 years from now, that's going to be a major, major problem.
Right.
So if I'm building a team, I'm not going after these wimpy kids that think they deserve stuff. I'm going after those people that have had a job before, that have gotten their teeth kicked in. I'm going after athletes. I'm going after people that have shown like they can overcome adversity and just weren't handed things in life. And that's one big thing I'm passionate about with my kids. Like I could see these other dads with this gentle parenting stuff. I was like, that shit does not work. It's not going to prepare your kids to be real people. That's
Right.
not real world stuff. And then when the real world hits them, it's going to hit them real hard.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we all know that even when we were the younger generation, the generation above us was saying we were the lazy generation. So there's some of that, but then there's also some, definitely feminized men and just lazy. I think lazy would be the key word on the generation out there. But I still think that there's people who not only have grown up with values like you said, but there's also people that have gotten close to going homeless that have a drive. There's also people that have lost things, that
Yeah.
now have a drive. There's people that have hit rock bottom before that are now rising up, and also like you said, college players. Things like people who played sports, baseball. Maybe they were in a very low division on a college, but they still have the drive. So I think there's a lot to pull, but if we walk down the street, we'll see some lazy people out there,
Yeah. Look for people that have a chip on their shoulder. They have something
Yep.
to prove that came from dirt, and they have nothing to lose but everything to gain.
So what questions
mean-
would I be asking
Well,
if
well,
I'm
I was
interviewing
gonna ask
people?
Well, I was going to ask you, Andrew, what drives you? Because ever since I've known you, you've been driven, you have values. What was the moment for you? But I think the answer is what Sway already alluded to. I've met your parents. I think you were raised with values, and you've always been that way. You've always made like responsible decisions, and so it's just how you were raised. I think that's a big contributor. Did I sum you up right? I mean,
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I definitely had great parents, and they definitely raised me the right way. I think my dad was tough on me, like very tough when he needed to be. Probably how you are today, Sway, with your kids. But at the same time, I was in a setting with other family members that weren't that had that same treatment, but today they're different than me. And I think there was always this innate nature of me to be very ambitious and hungry to be better and like very competitive. So I think there's a natural tendency there. And then if you have the right parents that teach you values, you get sharpened and you get really good, if that makes sense.
And I'll add on to that. Like when I worked with you over at Enterprise, you were something different. You always had ideas. I remember you had that invention that you wouldn't tell anybody about for years and years.
Yeah.
And like I tell this story when somebody recommends, or they're asking for a realtor and I recommend you. And I give that story of when you wanted to pitch your app idea to was that show, the realtor show that you were on?
$1 Million Listing LA. Yep. Yeah.
So the way you told me is like you pitched this meeting, but as soon as that meeting started, you just told me, "Hey, I lied to get in front of you. I want to be, I want to be your apprentice. I want to learn from you. I want to do that stuff." Like that takes some major balls to do. I thought that's one of the coolest stories I've heard. So that's why I don't hesitate to recommend you.
Thank you. I appreciate that
because of stuff like that.
Yeah. So when I pitched that idea, I actually didn't mean it though. Just to get in the door, I had a call. I think I went through their secretary like 3 or 4 times. I don't remember the exact amount. It's been years now. But once I got to that stage, I did ask them for money, like angel investment for that idea when I was working with you. And then unfortunately, they said, you know what, we are interested, but we want to see more. Like I didn't have the app working yet. At that time, running an app on the Apple App Store was very hard to do. It's a bit easier now, a lot easier actually. But at that time, they're like, we want to see a minimal viable product. So I said, great. Some time goes by, I come back and say, here's the minimal viable product. There it is. And they're like, oh, interesting. But then I said, but you know what? It's crashing. It's not going to work. So can I work for you? That's what happened. So
all right.
that's the whole story in a nutshell. But definitely, I've always been ambitious, always had these ideas. I'm still working on more ideas to this day, to be honest with you. But I do appreciate you giving me those referrals. And I think that's very important as a salesperson to get referrals from people like you that has a great sphere of influence. And I appreciate you, sending me over those clients and all that. And I remember when I met you at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, out of all the people that were there, because I think I was 19 at the time. I think you were maybe 20, I don't know, out of college, 23, 24, maybe, right? At John Wayne Airport.
Yeah, probably. So I was a little late starter, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I was young. I was a teenager. I might've been 18. And I saw you. I was like, this guy is a badass. He knows what he's doing. Everybody likes him. He's a charmer. He's making people laugh. And I remember seeing you go out of your way to meet all these people on the team that were like not even at your level, like, in the hierarchy in corporate America, they were lower than you. And you still went out of your way to make friends with them. And everybody found you as a likable person. And I remember when you were teaching me a little bit about sales, it was about finding ways to be funny and build rapport. And that stuck with me. And if there's anything you can say to that extent to add on to it of how you can be a better salesperson by using humor or building rapport, any specific tips that you give your salespeople today and that you can give the audience today?
Yeah, I say like everybody comes into a meeting, right, not wanting to be sold. If you can break that wall down from the beginning and just have it just a regular conversation between two regular people, it's going to work out more often than not.
Okay.
So that goes like you doing your research beforehand, knowing what you're going to talk about, having a game plan, and then use your surroundings. Do some research on that person, see where they went to school. People on their social media a little bit, have things to talk about.
Right.
There's one thing that I always, to land big accounts when I was a manager, like prior to this and the individual contributor, is if I identified a large account, I would look up who that decision maker was, where they went to school, and I would handwrite them a letter with like a t-shirt or a mug of like UCLA or USC and mail it to them, and then say, I'm gonna follow up with you next Tuesday or whatever. Enjoy your mug, enjoy your shirt, whatever. And then call them. It's like, hey, did that shirt fit you? Or hey, are you using that cup right now with your coffee? And then that, I felt like that was a way to get in front of people where other salespeople weren't doing. And it was like maybe $20 out of your pocket, but in the end, it's a couple $1,000 of your paycheck. So
right. So it takes a little bit of money to make money in that way, and being creative and going out of your way to actually do something like that. Because I feel a lot of salespeople would be, I've met salespeople that would feel uncomfortable doing something like that. So would that technically be a C player salesperson, or what would that be? Is someone that's just not in the know?
I would say like open or closed mouths don't get fed, right? Is that what they say?
Yeah.
If you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not taking that shot, you're gonna miss it every time. The worst they can do is say no, and then your life's exactly the same as it was 10 minutes ago.
Right. So let's do a little scenario or a game here. You said something that's very important, and I tell a lot of realtors because I go door knocking, right? And they ask me, how do you like start the conversation? How do you get people to want to talk to you, and how are you not nervous? And I kind of do what you do, right? In terms of point something out or look at things, research them, and see where you can have that rapport or some type of relationship or build on a story. You see my background here. There's a lot you can pick here to gain my interest, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a team or a building, let's say I'm in a huge building that has a lot of recyclable paper, right? Because that's the business you're in, right? Stericycle.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say I have you already know a lot about me in that way. I have a massive building where I'm always constantly having to get rid of paper. How would you sell me on it right now? If it's okay with you, can we role play a little bit?
Yeah. Like how would I set up that meeting and try to get to that close on the spot?
No, let's say we're at the end of the podcast. It's over.
Uh-huh.
You've never met me, but you know Chris.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're like, okay, well, now's my opportunity. The cameras aren't rolling. It's not recording anymore. And you've been wanting to talk to me about getting my business. How would you do that?
Probably start. I'm just looking at the background of Batman. Like, hey, I used to love Batman as a kid, but I always thought like, hey, that Michael Keaton, he was probably the best Batman. What do you think? What do you think, George Clooney?
Controversial. I like it. That's very controversial. I like it.
So that's interesting.
All right, then we can answer that question because it makes you think, right? And then
no. That's
down a little.
That's good. Let's pretend. Okay, let's just pretend. And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but you've been under pressure your whole life, and I know you do good at this because you're the one that taught me, if anything. And I just want the audience to learn. So I don't know you, right? Let's pretend. And you asked me that question. I would tell you, heck no. Jesus and how the hell did I forget his name? Not Michael Keaton. What's the other guy's name? The recent Batman. Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay, Sway. I think that's funny you say that. I grew up watching Batman my whole life, and I've always loved Batman, as you can see behind me. I wanted to add something interesting to my wall. I'm very happy you pointed that out because I've spoken to people on multiple podcasts. Nobody talks about that. With that said, though, like, I think Christian Bale's better. I don't know about Michael Keaton. He was a little too scrawny. He didn't have the muscles like Christian Bale. You could tell he put in the weights, and I just kind of appreciate someone like that a little bit more.
All right. I love Christian Bale too. He's probably one of my favorite actors. American Psycho is my favorite movie of all time. But I just think Christian Bale's voice, though, he does it a little too much as compared to like a Michael Keaton. Batman's supposed to be just like a regular guy, just a rich guy, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to slip it in though. When is he going to buy all your products?
Well, I think it takes time, right?
Yeah.
So let's keep going though. Let's keep going. So that's hilarious. And by the way, what are you smoking? Is that a cigarette or what is that?
It's the cigarillos that Ramsey sold us.
Oh,
by the way,
got it.
Ramsey's in Point Loma, the cigar shop. Great salesman. He sold us.
I want
like
you to tell us about that.
cigars.
I want you to tell us about that after this role play.
Yeah, of course.
That's going to be important. So, okay, so, I always thought Batman was supposed to be someone that everybody looked up to, the ladies' man, the buff guy, the rich guy. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I agree with that, but it's interesting take that you got there.
Yeah, that's fair. To each their own, right?
I guess, yeah.
But hey, since we're here, I kind of walk to your office, kind of see stuff right here. I see you have paper all over the place that people probably have access to. What do you typically do with that kind of stuff? I
have this one guy that comes in once a month. We kind of put it against the wall. my team and I, and we just leave it there in this like bin that's locked. But I honestly don't think about it. How come you asked though?
I was asking that because it's probably have some information you wouldn't want anyone outside of your company to see, right?
No, heck no. I mean, I have some stuff I don't even want you to know, to be honest with you. Especially Chris over there. He's a little. He asks too many questions. So no, you're right.
Yeah, well, that's fair. But what if somebody did know what they were looking for and got into that? What could they do with that?
They could take my whole company down. That's what they can do.
Yeah. Like how? Like step by step. Like how would that go?
I never really thought of that. I've never wanted to think of that. Step by step. Geez.
Hold on, Andrew. You're not acting in a commercial for his sales business. Just want to remind you, like you're answering it like you're reading a script here.
I don't know. Am I acting like I'm reading a script here?
Like I feel like you're trying to be strung along instead of just answering how you would actually answer. You know what I mean?
Okay.
From my perception. So
what do you think, Sway? How's the
just
role play going?
Let's try to make it real life. Like what would you? Hey, this is your business. Your livelihood depends on like the results of your business. How would you react if a lot more was at stake like that? So, I mean, you can answer it any way you want.
Right. How would you really answer it? I think you would really say, like, if he were to say, hey, look, what if someone got a hold of your information based on what they're looking at? What would you really say? I think the Andrew I know has a response, has a comeback to that. A real comeback.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know.
Your comeback isn't like, oh my God, I don't know. What would I do?
Honestly, no, I don't. I'm trying to put myself in a position of someone with a whole bunch of paperwork. So
I'm just saying.
What I'm doing is do what lawyers do, like those leading questions. Some lawyers will do these leading questions, and the other lawyer will object, like, "Hey, objection, leading question." So what I'm doing is I'm trying to paint a picture of the price of non-conformance, right? So it's more of you're telling me what could happen, and then I'm just gathering these bullets in my brain to fire off at the end when I'm trying to close you.
Okay, so
I'll tell you right now, for me, the biggest challenge that I can tell is I could never be a salesperson, and I really respect you. Like I've talked about before, my cousin's a salesman. I have so much respect for you guys. But for me, I am constantly aware that everyone in this conversation knows there's an objective and that I'm trying to achieve it. And that blocks me mentally from trying to get there because I feel like I'm almost being disingenuous. So I would imagine you are coming from a very pure place where you authentically believe that your product will help your clients out, that the people you're pitching to, and you have to get to that place and you have to almost take their mind off of what your objective is completely and then present them with it, as a solution. And that's a huge challenge. I mean, this is psychological combat in a way, right?
Yep. So that's why you break down that wall. So you're not on guard. Now we just have a conversation about Christian Bale and Michael Keaton and who's better and who's worse.
Well, you already gravitated my attention by pointing out Batman. You already made me, get your perspective on why your guy's better than my guy. And then we talk about the paperwork. So let me answer the question now, hopefully to Chris's way of thinking. So let's say I say, okay, so if my paperwork is compromised, I'm going to lose all my clients because they're going to tell me what kind of batshit bullshit am I pulling at my office, right? Like, this is bullshit. You're letting all my, social security number, my dollar amount, and my checking account out in the internet. So what would you say about that?
So tell me, what would you want to change with that? If you know that's the kind of stuff that could potentially happen. In a perfect world, what would you do different?
I don't know. I mean, as of right now, I just throw it in a bin and some guy comes and takes it away. And I haven't really spoken to him much, but that's all I really know. That's it.
Do you know where he takes it? Do you know what he does with it?
I think there's like a distribution plan or something. I have no idea.
Is it like a secure thing, or is just kind of like, hey, I'm hoping and wishing he's doing the right thing?
Honestly, I'm so busy, dude. I don't really know, but I would imagine. I mean, aren't you guys all the same?
Not really. If it's just a random guy, who knows what he's doing with it?
But he's a big name, though. I think he's a big name. So
what's his name?
No, not his name, but his company's name.
Oh, company, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, look at this. You don't have to buy from me or not, but if I showed you just a secure chain of custody where you could sleep well at night knowing that this stuff is never going to see human eyes and you have to do no work, is that something you'd want to pursue?
Maybe, I don't know. Probably.
Okay. Well, look at this. All we do is provide you a container. It's locked. You do no work. You just throw the paper in the container. You tell your team to do the same. You don't make any exceptions. Don't leave anything out in the open for anyone to see.
Mhm.
And then we'll come out here every Friday. We'll take it. Cool thing about us is everything's tracked to the second. We'll come out there. We'll take your information. Doesn't see human eyes. Just goes in the container. Then it's brought to our truck. Truck's GPS scanned, all that stuff. So we know every step our driver takes until it gets to our facility where it's destroyed. And then turns into toilet paper, paper towels, that kind of stuff. So,
Recycled. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I didn't really know it went to that process, but I mean, my guy's probably cheaper than you. I would imagine he's probably, I don't know, a couple $100 cheaper, maybe $100 cheaper a month, I would imagine. So like, do I really need to go to that extent and hire you, someone that's probably more expensive?
yeah, but is cheaper always better? Like, say, for example, if you're going to a Batman movie, do you want to watch it at home for free or do you want to go to IMAX?
IMAX.
Or if you go running, are you wearing McGregor's or are you wearing Nikes?
You know, I don't like Nike anymore because of the political aspect. I wear New Balances now, but I get the gist of it. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, look, this is an easy process. This is what we'll do. Here's our paperwork. It just needs your electronic signature. I'll be back next week, container. We'll make sure all that stuff's taken care of. You don't have to worry about anything. You do your job like you normally do, and this is out of sight, out of mind. But at the same time, everything's protected. What do you say?
But will it be you, or are you going to have some minion come? Because I mean, I feel like I talk to people like you high up, and then I never talk to you. So how do I know you're going to be in touch with me? Honestly.
Oh, here's my cell phone. Here's my direct line. Here's my email. Don't talk to customer service. If I'm going to put my face to something, I want you to always come to me. Like when you call customer service for anything, it's a nightmare, right? You're talking to somebody in the Philippines. You don't understand them. They give you a ticket. Whereas, hey, you call my cell phone, I'll help you out right away.
Great. Done. Okay. That was good. And
Well,
Chris,
first of all, I can tell you right now, this is not these questions that he was asking. This is not going to be a customer that you want. He's going to be too much of a headache. He's asking if it's going to be you coming to pick up the recycling. This is going to be a problem. Get out of that business immediately.
Yeah, it won't be me, but what in life is not a headache, right?
Yeah. No, but I think you did well because role playing is always weird. I mean, Sway knows this. I know this. It's just uncomfortable. It's just weird, especially when I threw it on the spot for you. It seems like I was the bad one at role playing according to Chris's standards.
No. What I saw, I'm telling you, what I saw was I felt like you were basically underhand throwing them baseballs because you wanted him to be successful, right? But
until the end.
But we know that he doesn't need underhand. You know what I mean?
And I know he's the GOAT.
He's
at
a
this.
pro.
So
that's what I'm saying. That's what I saw originally.
Got it.
That was a good back and forth.
What I like though, Sway, is that you didn't come off defensive, and I feel that a lot of salespeople, even when they're good, they get defensive and they bring up this wall where they almost naturally want to fight with you. And I've done that too, and sometimes, and then I feel that that's when you lose them. You lose the customer. So how do you keep things light and subtle where you don't want to get upset when they're giving you so many rebuttals back and forth?
I just have that approach. Like, I'm going to present myself as if, hey, you can go with me. That's awesome. If you choose not to go with me, I'm still okay. I'm not that person that's super aggressive. I'm more consultative, and I'm trying to help you instead of, really pushing, really get, like, in sales, they call like that commission breath, right? You can tell when someone's like desperately trying to get a sale. And I try to present myself like, I don't need this sale. It's cool to talk to you, but if you choose to not go with me, I'll sleep the same at night, whether you go with me or not.
Awesome. I mean, look, like I said, I have so much respect for you and people in your profession. I know that it's not for me, right? I just know that. And I'll tell you, there's nothing I buy from a salesman. Okay. I will, if I know I need something, I'll do groundwork to avoid salesmen. So I'm like the
For
worst.
real? I didn't know that about you. Is that for real? Or are you just bullshitting right now?
Like no. Like I've been to. I'll never go on Mile Cars or any place like that again. I'll always find an alternative, just because I feel like I'm going up against a lawyer against me without a lawyer. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'm going against the pros. Whenever people represent themselves in court, we call those people idiots, right? That's kind of what you're doing, going without representation against this. These people are trained, they're tactical. Now, I'm not saying that I don't buy products from salesmen, but it's me calling them. I already know ahead of time that I want their product. It's kind of like when I joined the Navy, I said, hey, you don't got to sell me on anything. I want to go. So, let's work out the best deal. But I know that I'm kind of underhanded in these situations because they're spending a lot more time thinking about how to hook me than I am about how to defend myself against them.
So where would we categorize Chris in that aspect as a salesperson and someone that to your stature of leadership? Would you tell your team members to not focus on people like Chris, or is there a certain element of strategy that we need to deploy on him?
Chris is going to find a way to get the best deal. And he's right. Salesmen are specifically trained to get every single dollar out of you, right? And you're probably just spinning your wheels if you're going after it, Chris. I would.
And look, and to be fair,
me too. I agree with you.
Well, look, to be fair, I'm also, if you're running a business, your goal should be maximizing your profits. Obviously, not doing anything unethical of that nature, but it's like we're all trying to do that same thing. And I will actually spend more money knowing that I don't have to do a lot with the relationship with the salesperson, especially in regards to my company. If they're going to take care of me without a lot of headache, I'll like sign my company up for more money that they would pay just so I don't have to worry about doing a lot of forms or a lot of extra work. Like we're giving you the money, don't make it a chore for me, And so I'll even pay more money, just depending on the relationship. I just want it to be smooth. I don't want it to just be a headache. And if the product's good and consistent, then I'm going to stick around.
So I feel like I already know how I would sell you. Then it would be more on service, make your life convenient. Is what it sounds like.
So service is what I would normally deal with. And if it's just easy and the money's flowing, we'll be great together. In fact, one of my vendors is Enterprise Truck Rental, so not the regular Enterprise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with them, we have a great relationship. In fact, when you were talking about how hard you work, I know for a fact that those guys work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. And it's not like there's 2 shifts. And so I was just having a conversation with one of them over here about how many hours he works, and he works crazy hours, and he works really hard. And
so then
I would be a good company that I would reference of no headache at all, pay a ton of money, and all of our problems are solved. And these guys do basically whatever I want them to do, which is not a lot. I don't ask a lot,
Right. I already feel that you were just coming off very strong and giving a negative to us type of salespeople that I think a lot of it was fluff. So I think we can sell you.
I'm saying I seek the salespeople. If they're gonna seek me, I'm gonna leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand.
Maybe I'm playing hard to get, but
you're playing hard to get.
I kind of know what I want when I'm talking to them. But if I start the conversation not knowing what I want, it's a very bad play, because you're gonna end up with some shit that you haven't researched. You're going to end up with some stuff that maybe it isn't exactly what you needed at all. If you show up there researched, it's an easy conversation for everybody.
So that's interesting. You're saying that because you kind of play hard to get, and as a mirror, right? In sales, you probably want to mirror Chris, where we're not desperate for the business, which is kind of what Sway was proving when he was doing the role play with me, where he wasn't getting defensive and wasn't like desperate to get the sale on the commission based. And that's kind of a good segue to like what I wanted to talk to you about and ask you if this is a good strategy. So I've never been a salesperson, like in terms of, I never thought I was going to be a good salesperson. I'm an introvert. I don't really care to do sales, at least when I started. But I've always been competitive. As Chris pointed out, he's met my parents. He knows I'm a very competitive person. I was I had some values, but there was times when I was single, I would go to the bars and I had friends with me and cousins, whatever. And I remember this one moment where some of them were acting stupid, right? Like, oh, I could get all the girls and I could do all that bullshit type of thing. And I said, you know what? Let's do a bet, see how many phone numbers we can get. And I'm not saying I'm the best looking guy out of that group, but I ended up getting the most phone numbers at the end of the night. I got 4 phone numbers in the matter of like 3.5 hours or 3 hours, I think. And some of the guys got 0, and the guy I was really competing with got 2. So when I go into the space of being a salesperson, when I go out, I always go to the bars, and I always think of that in my mind, like, okay, go back to that moment where you won and you did well in front of these guys that you thought were probably going to do better than you. And I go into that mentality where when I go to a bar, I try and pick up clients as if I was trying to pick up a girl when I was a single person, which obviously I don't do anymore because I'm married. But I go out there and I get clients now through the bars, trying to get phone numbers. So my question to you with that backstory is, if I'm trying to build a team, granted, I have a bunch of young guys under me, right, that I want to put them through a test, a litmus test to see how good they are. And they're all single. Let's assume they're all single, and I know they're single. Would that be a good way to throw them in there and see, okay, these guys have no experience in real estate, so I don't want to role play with them right now. I just want to see if they have the ability to get phone numbers. Is that a good way to do it?
Maybe. I mean, some people are more charming, some people are not. I don't know if I would take that approach. If I'm really looking for killers, I'm talking to people with those kind of backgrounds, but then when I'm talking to them, I'm not talking about like, or asking them questions about what they would do. I want to know what they did do. Like, what does your past look like? Because past behavior is indicative of future results.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been disciplined all your life, you're most likely going to continue that. So when I'm interviewing a candidate, when I'm like looking for new people, that's what I'm looking for when doing the interview. Like, what did you do every day? Show me your calendar. Tell me how you ranked amongst your peers and why. Like, if you weren't number one, who was number one, and why were they in that position, and why weren't you? What do they do differently than you? Mm-hmm. So that's the route I would go. Because people, especially if you're looking for sales guys, most salespeople are likable and they could charm you in an interview, and that could lead to a bad hire.
But that's you doing the questions back and forth. So it sounds like you ask questions where they have to explain the step by step, but I'm asking in terms of like actually seeing them, rather than saying, sell me this iPhone right now, sell me this iPhone in the interview. Like, is there any specific way to approach it where you actually see them do the work rather than them explaining their past that will lead you to the future expectations from them? But is there a certain, component that you do where you actually put them at play and see where they go?
Kind
of.
I
think movies
plays kind of go astray sometimes, especially in an interview. But I think one way to like weed out the bullshit, right, when the people are going to feed you, is have them come into an interview with a brag book, something physical that showed like, hey, this person actually got this result, won this award, did that. And then you can also look at their presentation skills, because I always think in an interview, you're probably seeing this person the best they ever will be. And then if they don't look good in front of you, they're probably not going to look good in front of customers. So I think you have to take a lot of the chance out of it and really, really dig into past behavior, past results. Because I'm always scared of getting that bad hire, because they always say you hire your own problems.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Makes sense.
I'll give you an example. Like one of my DSMs last week interviewed a guy, and he made him do a role play. And then after that role play, that guy says, "You know what? I don't want to do this."
Are you serious?
Yeah, he ended the interview right there. So it can weed people out as well. But I even talked to him, like, well, what question did you ask him before that? And he was just kind of giving his story, what he would do. He's a hard worker, blah, blah, blah. But I think if he would have dug into his past a little bit, that's probably not somebody we should have interviewed in the first place.
Right. Interesting. Okay. I fully get that. That makes sense. A few last questions before we get going. How do you find a leader from a sales group where there's like that succession planning where you're at the very top, but you want a couple sales leaders beneath you to manage all the salespeople below you? Like, how do you go about building that team?
So I think like you don't leave it to chance. You as a leader, me, say for example, you have to be an empowering leader. And what an empowering leader does is a leader that creates leaders, that leads leaders, and so on, however many layers there are. And by doing that, you delegate a lot. You give people responsibilities. You make them learn on the fly. Let them learn like through mistakes and minimize that learning curve. So when they do take my role, that there's almost no like bad transition time. So instead of just waiting for a leader to emerge, is you build everybody. And that's kind of my approach. Like I give away a lot of responsibilities. I have them manage up. I have them do my job, and then I try to do my boss's job. And it leads to that next player up mentality. If something opens up, in the corporate world, things change like real quick. You have to have people on the bench ready to go so that the company doesn't miss a step if they have a new person. So you have to like be very, very proactive in building everybody that you come in contact with.
Well, when he's talking about leadership, one scene that I always think of when it comes to leadership is, I don't know if you guys watched Better Call Saul. Did either of you watch that?
No.
No? Oh, well, I guess I can't use this as a reference, but there's this character name, and you can add this video over. I'll send you the link. But his name is Lalo Salamanca, and he's basically kind of like an uncle in the cartel. And
wow.
He doesn't really take people's word for things. He always says, show me.
Okay. Show me.
Someone will say, hey, look, the dealer's got robbed again, or there's a police, show me. He's always saying, show me. People come and report information to him, and he says, show me. Take me over there. And he'll go to a situation. He's not afraid to take over the situation, but he's also trying to influence other people to be the ones to take over those situations. And I know it's a weird reference to say this cartel guy is the example of a leader, but I did see that in it, in that character. And there's so many examples of it. When we watch sports, we see examples. There's just a whole team full of leaders, right, that are there. But I think that show me, when people report things to you, when your subordinates come in and say things to you, don't just take their word for it. Get involved with what they say. And like you were saying, what Andrew was saying about you, you'll go out there no matter where they are on the totem pole. You'll talk to them, welcome them in, because leadership is really a social process of influencing change towards a common objective, right? And that's what we're really trying to do. It is a social process. It's like being at the bar almost, but you're not drinking, You're trying to influence people socially to do what you need them to do. Leading by example is one of the best ways to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I took a lot away from this with you on this podcast, Sway. So thank you. I appreciate it. I hope the listeners, took something away with it, because I've been thinking about how to build a team. So in a way, this is like a selfish way of me like learning from you, but having the audience also learn. But I like the idea of giving people tasks and, responsibilities to take on and see how they do. So one last question is, when you're giving them these responsibilities, if you give them a certain amount of responsibilities and tasks to do, to take upon themselves to be the leader under you while they lead other people, is there a certain amount of tasks that you need to give them before you're like, you know what, this guy just keeps messing up, I'm done?
No, because if it gets that situation, that's my fault. All right. You can't give them too much. You got to make sure, like, hey, I'm going to give you this thing. Once you get good at it and perfect it, pass it on to others, and then you have them do the same. I feel like once you're a kind of a leader or a manager under me, you've proven that you have the ability, the will to do these things. So I'm not going to let you fail.
Wow. Spoken like a true leader, taking responsibility all the way. Very good. That's what separates you from most people. I hope everybody, took away a lot from here and can learn on the sales aspect. Thank you, Sway, for your time. I really appreciate you. Everybody go ahead and follow, like, and subscribe to the Full Count Podcast channel. We're on YouTube, and we're also on Instagram and TikTok. So do that. Thank you very much.
It was good meeting you, Sway.
You too.